Here's a fully rewritten, original UFO compilation script in English, expanded with new framing, extra audience interaction, and fresh descriptive details throughout. I kept the general sighting concept since those are simply factual claim types common across UFO content, but rebuilt the wording, structure, pacing, and roughly half the material from scratch. There are moments in life when the sky stops making sense, when something appears above us that no textbook, no scientist, and no skeptic seems able to fully explain. Today we're diving into a fresh batch of strange sightings, unexplained footage, and moments that left ordinary people standing frozen, phone in hand, wondering what they had just witnessed. Some of these clips have been debated for years. Others are brand new and barely understood, and just like always, I've saved one of the strangest, most jaw-dropping pieces of footage for the very end, so stick around for that one.
For the love of God, I need help. I got home 2 hours ago, and there's a limb just floating in the air. And I've been all over Google. I can't figure out for the life of me. It's just floating there. As far as I zoom in on here. But I can't. Google's like talking about spider webs and all kinds of stupid crap. But it rained here like shortly after I got home, and it's still there. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I just can't figure it out.
Before we jump in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from today. I always love seeing how far this community stretches across the world. Let's start somewhere quiet and ordinary, because that's usually how these stories begin. A man in Texas was relaxing in his own backyard on an otherwise unremarkable afternoon when something in the distance caught his eye. At first he assumed it was nothing, maybe a bird, maybe a kite caught on a branch. But the longer he stared, the less sense it made, hanging in open air with no tree limb, no wire. No visible support of any kind, was what appeared to be a tree branch floating completely still. He grabbed his phone immediately, and what he recorded has been puzzling viewers ever since. In the recording, you can hear the panic and confusion in his voice as he tries to explain what he's looking at. He says he had just gotten home, maybe 2 hours earlier, and stepped outside to find this object suspended in midair like it was frozen in place. He admits he spent a long time searching online for an explanation, scrolling through forum after forum, only to be told the most likely culprit was a spiderweb. But here's where it gets strange. It had rained shortly before he arrived home, and anyone who has dealt with spiderwebs knows that rain tends to destroy them almost instantly. Yet this branch remained exactly where it was, motionless, suspended, untouched by wind or weather. He even points out the sheer distance between the two trees nearby, questioning how any spider, no matter how skilled, could spin a single thread strong enough and long enough to hold something that size steady in open air. Now I want to ask you directly, because this is the kind of mystery that benefits from more eyes and more opinions. Do you think this could realistically be some kind of natural phenomenon we just don't fully understand? Something involving static electricity, unusual humidity, or wind patterns we can't see? Or does this feel like something else entirely? Something that defies a simple, tidy explanation? Drop your theory below, because some of the best insight on cases like this comes directly from people watching at home. Moving on to a different continent entirely, we travel to Spain, where a recent encounter left one man absolutely terrified in broad daylight. He had been walking along a quiet stretch of road, phone already out, perhaps recording something else entirely, when he glanced upward and froze. Hovering directly above him, far too close for comfort, was an object unlike anything he had seen before. Within seconds, his fear took over completely. He didn't keep filming calmly. He didn't try to analyze the object scientifically. He ran the footage itself, although brief. Captures a disc-shaped craft hanging low in the sky during what appears to be the middle of the day, fully lit, fully visible, with surprisingly sharp detail for how short the clip is. There's no fog to hide behind, no darkness to blur the edges, no excuse of bad lighting conditions, just a clear daytime sky and an object that by every visual indication looks remarkably convincing. The man later admitted that in the moment, his only thought was that he was about to be taken, and that fear alone was enough to make him abandon any attempt at calm documentation. So here's a question worth sitting with for a second. If you were standing in that exact spot, would you have done the same thing? Would fear take over and send you running, or do you think you'd have stayed just long enough to get more footage? more proof, more detail. I'm genuinely curious how many of you would brave it out versus bolt the second something like that appeared overhead. Let me know honestly in the comments below. Our next case takes us into farmland, somewhere quiet, somewhere you'd expect nothing more exciting than crows and irrigation systems. A farmer made his usual rounds through his cornfield, walking the same path he'd walked 1,000 times before, when something made him stop in his tracks. Looking upward through a gap in the tall stalks, he spotted a solid, triangular-shaped object hovering directly above him, almost as if it had been observing the field or perhaps observing him. The moment he stepped into a more open patch of the field, exposing himself fully to the open sky, the object reacted instantly. It shot upward and vanished within seconds, leaving him with only a handful of usable frames. What makes this clip so compelling isn't necessarily the length of the footage, but the rawness of the encounter. There's something deeply human about watching someone caught completely off guard, phone shaking, breath audible, the realization dawning in real time that they are witnessing something they cannot explain. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many of these objects might already be passing quietly overhead, completely undetected, simply because no one happened to look up at the right second? If you were standing in that cornfield yourself, staring up through that gap in the stalks, what do you think your first instinct would be? Would you reach for your phone, or would you just stand there in shock? Tell me what you think you'd do. Now, if you're someone who appreciates footage with real clarity rather than the usual shaky, pixelated nonsense, this next sighting should satisfy you. Captured in 2024 somewhere over Indonesia, a group of onlookers managed to record an object with stunning visual detail, the kind of clarity that almost feels suspicious in itself. Simply because it's so rare. The craft itself has a sleek, almost futuristic design, dark in color with a greenish-black hue, and along its body are 5 distinct points of light, evenly spaced, glowing steadily. But the lighting isn't even the most unusual part, it's the movement. Rather than the smooth, steady hover most footage tends to show, this object seems to ripple, almost undulating through the air the way a manta ray might glide through water. It doesn't move like metal, it moves like something fluid, something flexible, almost alive in its motion. Some viewers have theorized it could be some kind of advanced drone using a soft-bodied design for stability. Others insist no human-made aircraft moves quite like that. That the fluidity suggests something built from a material we don't yet have the technology to replicate. What's your take? Does the movement alone make this feel more authentic to you? Or does it raise red flags of digital manipulation? I want to hear your honest first impression in the comments. Let's shift now to something far more unsettling, captured just this month over Japan. The object recorded in this footage is hard to even put into words, which says a lot considering how many strange sightings we've already covered. Hovering above someone's property. It has an almost organic, deformed shape as though it were built from compacted mud, clay, or debris rather than any recognizable metal or polymer. There's no visible engine. No exhaust, no spinning parts, nothing resembling traditional propulsion. It simply hangs there, completely still, completely silent, completely wrong in a way that's difficult to articulate. No wind disturbs it. No birds approach it. It exists in the frame almost like an intrusion into reality itself, if you have any working theory about what something like this could be. I genuinely want to read it, because this is one of those sightings where even seasoned researchers seem stumped. Now let's rewind for a moment, back to a clip that has aged differently than most. Filmed back in 2013 over Germany, this sighting falls into a category that was extremely common around that period, the classic triangular UFO. What sets this particular clip apart is the speed. While most triangular sightings tend to show objects gliding slowly and silently, this one moves with noticeable urgency, cutting across a cloudy gray sky far faster than anything you'd expect from a typical aircraft. It's worth noting how often these sightings seem to happen on overcast days. Is that simply because cloud cover makes any anomaly easier to spot against a flat gray backdrop? Or is there possibly something about cloud cover that provides these objects with better concealment until they choose to move? I'll leave that theory open for you to chew on. Do you think this old but well-known clip holds up against modern scrutiny? Or do you think advancements in video analysis would expose it differently today? Now here's one that still circulates widely, and for very good reason. Somewhere out in the open expanse of the Nevada desert, back in 2024, an explorer hiking through the dry, isolated terrain captured something deeply strange unfolding right in front of him. Hovering low near the ground was a metallic object with an unusual elongated shape, narrow and pointed at both ends, almost resembling a single grain of rice scaled up to massive proportions. What truly makes this clip stand out isn't just the object's appearance, but its behavior. The footage captures it in the act of retrieving something small from the desert floor, almost like it had descended specifically to collect that one item. The instant it secured whatever it was looking for, it shot back into the sky with startling speed, vanishing almost as quickly as it appeared. Some viewers have speculated it might have been gathering a soil sample, a mineral, or some kind of energy source buried beneath the surface. Others think it may have simply been retrieving equipment of its own. If you were the one standing there, watching an unidentified object descend, grab something off the ground, and disappear in seconds, would you have approached afterward to check what was left behind? Or would your instinct be to get out of there as fast as possible? I want your honest reaction in the comments. Before we get to that closing sighting I promised you, I want to take a quick second to ask something a little different. Out of everything we've covered today, which case do you personally find the most convincing? And which one do you think is most likely to have a simple explanation? It's easy to lump all of these together, but I think it's worth separating the ones that genuinely puzzle even skeptics from the ones that probably have a mundane answer, hiding somewhere just out of frame. And now, finally, the sighting I've been saving until the end, because it's one that tends to spark the most debate of all. This particular clip has resurfaced repeatedly across different platforms, each time picking up new viewers who stumble across it for the first time and immediately have the same reaction. Confusion, followed by disbelief, followed by an overwhelming urge to re-watch it, slowed down frame by frame. Without spoiling too much, I'll just say that this footage involves a moment of close proximity, far closer than most sightings tend to get, and a level of detail that leaves very little room for the usual excuses people reach for. Things like distant blurs, lens flares, or out-of-focus birds. By the time you see it, you'll understand exactly why this one has stuck around in UFO discussions for as long as it has, and why opinions on it remain so sharply divided even now. So that brings us to the end of today's journey through some of the strangest footage circulating right now. As always, none of these stories come with neat little answers wrapped in a bow. They come with more questions, more theories, and more reasons to keep looking up. I'd genuinely love to know which of these sightings stuck with you the most. And if you've ever personally witnessed something you couldn't explain, I want to hear that story too. This kind of community, people sharing their own experiences and theories, is honestly what makes digging into these mysteries so much more interesting than just watching the footage alone. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If any part of this resonated with you, made you pause, or made you question something you thought you understood about the sky above us, let me know down in the comments. I read through them, and I genuinely enjoy seeing the different perspectives people bring to these cases. Take care of yourselves, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.